This is Engage New York, Module 1, Lesson 7. This is Concept Development 1-7, Concept Development, Problem 1. What we're going to go ahead and start with are, here I have put our place value chart here so you have a reference point to it. So we're going to take our first number of 160. So 160 is also equal to 16 tens. Yes? 160 is also equal to 16 tens. Now, 155 is equal to what? So now we're going to take our numbers and we're going to actually use the number line to find midpoint. Hold on 1 second. What's that? Oh, okay. All right. So I want you to just take a look at this. What would be on the other side of 15.5? 15.5. So based on some of the midpoint applications we were doing, what would be on the other side of 15.5? So if we have 15.5 tens and we say, what's on the other side? 15 tens. What would be, if 15.5 tens is the midpoint, what would be at the top based on what we know? So we're going to take this idea and now we're going to use that with 16 tens, 15.5 tens, and 20 tens on these 3 lines below. So where do you think we should start? How about if we start with 16 tens up here equals 160, okay? Then what do you think should be down here? So let's put 15 tens is equal to 150. Now, what do you think our midpoint is going to be? It's going, Oliver, what do you think? If this is 200, what do you think? What would be the 100 below it? What would be the 100 below it? 100. Yes. 100 100s is equal to 100. Then what do you think would be in between 100 and 200? It's going to be 150, which is equal to 100 plus 5 tens, which is equal to 150, right? All right, so where would this 155 fit in? Would it be above 150 or would it be below 150? Yes, you are correct. This would be sitting right above it, 155, right? 15 tens plus 5 ones. All right, we are going to move on to the next problem. So you're kind of getting the hang of this, just kind of getting the hang of this here. Now, problem 2. We are going to strategically decompose 1.57 to the nearest tenth. So we're going to round to the nearest whole and tenth. So we have a place value chart up here. So what I want you to do is I want you to try out to rename 1.57 using the greatest amount of tenths. How would you write 1.57 in tenths? Try that out. Just write it somewhere on your page. Feel free to use the place value chart. If I start with 1 and 57 hundredths, and now I want to write that in the greatest amount of tenths, what am I going to end up with? I'm going to write it to the greatest tenths. Rename 1.57 using the greatest number of tenths possible. So I would end up with 15 tenths and 7 hundredths. Now, what if I wanted to rewrite that, rename it using only hundredths? What would our number be if I now only want to use 1.57 and I only want to say hundredths? What would I end up with? We're going to rename this as hundredths only. So I could say 157 hundredths. So now we're smushing it. We're pulling that whole number together. So the next thing we're going to do, we are going to use our number line in this direction, our vertical number line, to map this out. So stay with me for 1 second and see if you understand what's going on here. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to round to the nearest tenth. So the nearest tenth would end up being 1.6. And on the other side of the tenth, I would be 1.50. Now, in between, which 1.6 is equal to 16 tenths, and 1.5 is equal to 15 tenths. So in the middle, the midpoint of 1.5 and 1.6 is going to be what? Exactly. It's going to be 1.55 or 15 tenths plus 5 hundredths. Now, 1.57. Where would 1.57 sit on our line? Would it be below? Would it be above? 1.57. Where would that sit? Show me with your thumbs, either thumbs up or thumbs down. Yes, you guys are exactly correct. 1.57 is going to sit right above here, which we know is equal to 15 tenths plus 7 hundredths. Okay. Moving on to problem 3. We are now going to decompose to round. We're decomposing, and decomposing means to pull apart, to break down. To round 4.381 to the nearest 10 to the nearest 1 to the nearest tenth and to the nearest hundredth. All right, so this is where we can use our place value chart to round. And then what we'll do is we'll use our number line to place these items inside on our number line. So go ahead, and what I want you to do is I want you to take 4.381. So 0, 4, 3, 8, 1. And now I want you to decompose it just like we were doing up here. I want you to decompose it to the nearest 10, 1 tenth, and hundredth. See if you can do that really quick, and then come on back. So I don't see you doing anything. Remember, we're trying this. Nice job, so. Okay. So we want to round this number to the nearest 10 first. How many tens did you need to name this number? Well, you needed 0 tens. So, because if you were rounding this to the nearest tens, 4 is still below 5. So it would remain the same. It would not round up to 10. It would remain 0. All right. From there, between what two multiples of 10 would we place this number on the number line? So if we had to place this number, or just 4.381, if I had to put this just thinking about the ones, if I had to put it on this number line, where could I start my number line? So I would start with 0 tens. I have 0 tens. Then if I'm rounding to the nearest tens, where would I stop? Where am I'm rounding to the nearest 10. What is my top number going to be? Show me with your fingers. 10. 10. Not. Yes. So 110, right? 110 is equal to 10. So now we rounded to 10, we rounded to 1. Rounding to 1, it would just stay the same. Then if we rounded to tenths, and then if we rounded to hundredths. So what number comes between 0 and 1, 0 tens and 110? What number is going to come here? It's going to be just be 5 ones, which is equal to 5. So I want you to figure out where would 4.381 come on our line. Would it be below 5 ones or would it be above 5 ones? You guys are absolutely correct. 4.381 is going to sit below 5 ones. That's all we're doing here, my friends. We're just trying to figure out where these numbers would sit using a vertical number line and using our understanding of the place value table. All right, last problem. We are now going to decompose. We're going to use ones, tens, tenths, and hundredths. So here is our number, 9.975. 9.975. If I had to round 9.975, what number would you just automatically think to round to? Okay, I'm going to give you a little cheat sheet right here. All right, so I'm rounding to the ones. So whatever I'm coming up to here, if I round, you guys all said you would round to 10 up here. So I'm rounding to the ones. Then if this is 10 ones, what's going to be at the bottom of the ones? If this is 10 ones, what's going to be on the bottom? What's going to be, it's not actually going to be 0. Think of the next number down. What is the next number down? Yes, it's 9 ones. Okay, because I'm thinking only about ones right here. Now, I'm only going to be thinking about tens right here. So I'm going to put 110 here. And then I'm rounding to the tens. So I'm going to put 0 tens here. Then on the tenths. So we have to look at the tenths over here. So I'm going to say 100 tenths is equal to 10. And down below here, I would say 99 tenths is equal to 9.9. Now I'm going to hundredths. So if I say 998, let's say 900, look, 998, because 5 is going to make the 7 roll up to an 8. So if I say 998 hundredths, which is equal to 9.98. On the other side of this, if this is 998, what is one number going to be below? 997 hundredths is equal to 9.97. All right, so now we have our place value, our number lines numbered. Let's go back up to our place value chart and let's try to work this out so we know where our halfway points are, and then where does our number sit within those place value points. So let's go back up to the top. Let's write in 9 ones, 975 thousandths right at the top. Now, I'm going to shift. I'm going to think about tenths. So if I'm going to shift my decimal 99 tenths and 75 thousandths. Then if I shifted it back again, I could get 997 hundredths, 5 thousandths. Then if I shifted it back again, I could get 9,975 thousandths. So if we had to keep shifting it back to get the tenths, the hundreds, and the thousands, that's what our number would look like. Now, based on 99 tenths, 997 hundredths, so I have 99 tenths here up to 100 tenths. Then if I had 0 tenths up to 1 tenth, and if I had 9 ones to 10 ones. So let's figure out really quick, what number is halfway in between 9 ones and 10 ones? Not sure where you're going.
My Chromebook has 1% on it.
Oh, okay. It's probably my least favorite lesson. I feel like it's super confusing, but then when you go here, like I'm better. I think that the word problems are easier to solve than using that darn chart. I feel like there's got to be a better way to explain that chart. Yeah. So that's why we're going to debrief. like, why are we doing it? That's the biggest question. Cooper, we actually get out at 10:40 today, and from now on 10:40, and then you're back at 11:40. I know, we're running so close. I will make sure to have the debrief in Google Classroom, but this was my little helper. I went in to try to help you. Here is hundredths. So if I'm rounding to the hundredths, so I'm going to start with the smallest one, 15.37, the hundredths. On the other side of this would be 15.38. If I'm rounding to the ones, I would have 115. On the other side, I'd have 116. If I'm rounding to the tens, I would go 110, and I would go 120. Then trying to find the midpoint is what you're trying to do. Now go back to what we were learning about in the concept development. What do all those numbers have in common? What was that number I was highlighting that they had in common? Then this problem number 3, 0.994. So if I'm rounding to the hundredths, I'm going to start with 0.99. On the other side of that, I'm going to have 1.00. If I'm rounding to the nearest tenths, I'm going to start with 0.9 on the bottom. And what's one number up? It would be 1.0. If I'm rounding to the ones, I'd start with 0, and I would go to 1. If I'm going to tens, well, there are no tens, so I'm going to start at 0 and go to 10. First thing, identify the midpoint, and then figure out where this number sits, either above or below, when rounding to the hundredths, the tenths, the ones, and the tens. Good luck on the problem set, and yes, I will come back for debrief.